Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is the first of a couple different bowl season pods. Bowl season's about to begin in 2 days. We've all got our ESPN pick. All of us have our ESPN picks in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have mine confidence down.
We may be switching them up, though, with a lot of people setting out. We got a lot to talk about. I'm Steve.
Jay.
Lucas.
Connor.
And Ava's here in the audience. So we've got a full house here. We're back at full strength. We've got our pessimism sitting in his seat.
The realist is back.
The realist is back. The realist is back.
The cloud.
We've got a lot to
returned.
talk about. So should we start with how are things going for OU with recruiting in the portal? And I'll just give you a report that you probably are aware of. 24/7, who does a really good job of amalgamating all of the different services. They have OU ranked number 8 in recruiting, number 1 in the portal with 3 commits, and that's an overall ranking of 6. So ranked 6, I would say that's going pretty strong. I would say that things are moving in the right direction and we're getting the guys we want to get. And I don't know if we can be too disappointed by that at all. In fact, I think we can be pretty pleased by it. But you guys tell me what you think about what you're hearing. We got a couple of big recruits and portal moves this past week. So what do you guys think?
6 and 6, ranked 6th. So we got the 666. The
Oh,
deals
good.
with the
We got
devil.
that
I like
going
it.
for us.
So no, I mean to be where we're at right now, to have maintained some of the guys that we still have. Supposedly, it's not signing day yet, but it looks like everything is trending in the right direction with the guys that are slotted to be signing here in, I guess, next week.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
21st, is it?
I think
Yeah.
it's whatever next
So
Tuesday
it's,
is.
It's got here fast. So, no, I think a lot of the panic that I had and a lot of the stress that I've had towards the end of the season, where we're losing games that we shouldn't lose, and not looking what I think Oklahoma football should look like, to have the 6th overall ranked class right now, at least according to what 247 says. You got to be pretty happy with that. So it's trending in the right direction, at least from my point of view. What's the realist say?
Well, the commitment from the two brothers, was it McCullough?
Mm-hmm.
The one kid's played for Indiana for a season and had a really good season
Great
as a true
season.
freshman.
Desan.
The brother, the other brother, who's a high school senior, was committed to Cincinnati. And
How do you say that name? D-A-E-H.
Daya. I think.
Daya?
Yeah,
Daya.
Daya.
And
We have
Fickle's
to
done a
learn
pretty
that.
good job recruiting. So, I mean, if he wanted him, he's probably a pretty good kid. He's a 4-star. He's a safety, right? Or is he a defensive back?
He's a safety, but he's a big kid already.
Okay.
So he might end up like his brother. And
Yeah.
I think his brother,
That second
at
safety
the
spot
same
next year is
time,
gonna be interesting.
he was like 6'5" in all the camps and still covering people in the slot and stuff. And so that's kind of why he was
They say he's a perfect
such a
cheetah.
freak.
Yeah.
But once you get to 230, 240, you can be a cheetah roll, but you can't be a corner like he was in high school.
Right.
So
his-
is that
his
kind of like
brother-
what Venables said, where he wants those guys like the Isaiah Simmons of the world who can come off the edge but also drop back in coverage?
Yeah, I
and still
think
be
this is our
effective?
best version of them trying to recreate Isaiah Simmons. Yeah.
Well, so with those two guys coming in, the Jacob Lacey from Notre Dame coming in to help increase some depth on the defensive line. And then you got another week to push and see what we get. But, I mean, anything inside the top 10 has to be a win for recruiting when you just put out a really crappy season.
Yeah, the kids are obviously buying the message, right, and not holding this season against us, or against the coaches, so to speak.
They're buying it more than I am.
And
Big
if you do add a Peyton Bowen, and he would be our highest ranked defensive commit since Joe McCoy.
Wow. What year was that?
2006.
Six?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6,
Yeah.
7. So
That's something.
it's pretty crazy. Most places have him as the number 10 overall player in the country.
So what's the feel there? We heard some stuff right before we started the pod that you were mentioning around Oregon, really pushing for him as well, not only with just the product that they have, but also with the NIL as well.
Yeah, the
Now, what's
NIL
that
is
rumor
just
coming
crazy. 24/7 Notre Dame message board. Just a
hell,
rumor.
That could be anything.
Yeah, could be anything.
Yeah, he's a Notre Dame commit, but he's,
Right.
I mean, he's
Um,
rumored to have been looking around for a while. Like I said, he's the guy we talked about wearing OU gloves to practice and even games at Denton Geyer.
Pre-NIL, these types of scenarios you could
Really
kind of put
gauge
a
out.
better gauge on, a better
Yeah.
percentage, but you just don't know anymore. I mean, if that was true, right? If Oregon is throwing around an absurd amount of money for an
Which
unproven high
2
school
million
recruit,
would be a crazy number.
what can you do if you're that kid, right? I mean, can you really turn that down? Honestly,
I
Yeah.
think if
can you
you're,
turn that down?
I think if you're Brent Venables and crew, at that number, I'm thinking you probably say,
Yeah, go take it.
"Kid, go take it."
Yeah, come here
And
next year.
Good, good for you. And if it doesn't work out, we're still here.
Yeah.
I think at some point you've got to get some reasonableness in that. And I
Yeah.
think A&M may already be facing that a little bit. We've talked about that some, that those numbers have to come down to reasonableness, or these folks will either run out of money or they'll come to their senses
Yeah.
and realize they can't just keep doing this.
Yeah, especially have a kid come there for 1 year,
Yeah,
make the
it's
money,
not
and
going
go
to be
somewhere
an
else afterwards.
endless arms race. You'll
it's crazy,
always
too,
get
'cause they're
spikes
so-
of this.
There's such an unproven commodity.
Yeah. You'll realize
That-
real soon that you don't want to do that. And honestly, as a coach,
If you
as
wanted
a
to pay
program,
$2 million for the North Carolina quarterback
Well,
to
right,
come to your school,
Makes
Right.
a little bit
well,
more
that
sense.
might be worth it.
right,
I mean, there may be like generational guys like an
Right.
Adrian Peterson, where you know he's a for sure guy,
right.
and he's going to work out.
He'll have a huge number.
You
Because
pay
even
somebody
like,
like that
even
out of high
Texas is trying to spend between $5 and $7 million to keep Bijan on campus.
Well, and like look at the running back that just went to Texas A&M, right? Top rated running back, I
number
think.
one,
And
Ruben
A&M, I mean,
Owens.
I am saying I'm glad the kids aren't judging us based on our record, but Texas A&M is a dumpster fire from what we can see.
Well, and honestly,
So-
we're 1 year into a new regime that was decimated in
This is year
talent.
5.
They're year 5
Yeah.
after great recruiting classes. If you think something's going to change there, you're just absolutely
You're
in
in a
fairy
cult if
tale
you
land.
think that.
You're in a cult that does weird stuff. But yeah, then again,
Yeah.
A&M.
Well, I guess back to us. If we can add Bowen, Hicks, the number 1 D tackle in the country, it seems like it's a pipe dream. I don't know. I don't think we're gonna be able to get him from A&M.
I don't think we want him. You know,
We probably don't want him because he's
I think there might
kind
be
of
some
playing the game.
yeah, I think there's some danger, and that's what I was getting at. When you're Venables and crew, at some point you need to say, we're going to take the guys who really want to be committed and play football for us, and I can get through to. I don't want a guy that halfway through the season, he's going to want to have a sit down and have a negotiation with an agent. That doesn't make sense. So you've got to have some happy medium between these things. And at some point you can recruit 3-star guys, show them 4-star money, and they're thrilled out of their mind, and they play for you hard as can be. And they're actually guys fitting your program if you're doing a good job recruiting.
Then I think really the last guy that we're kind of closing in on high school wise, that's a big target. It's a top 100 kid, Tassili Akana. He's an outside linebacker / probably grow into a defensive end type player. But it's all trending very heavily towards us, and
Yeah, multiple
That kind of-
quote-unquote crystal balls, right?
yeah,
So-
that kind of replaces that loss of Vasic earlier.
Yeah, because I remember that Akana was back in the middle of the season was kind of just like, not a lot happening there. It doesn't look like a lot's going to come of it. And definitely, even after Vasic a few weeks ago decommitted and then committed to Texas, decommitted from us, committed to Texas, didn't hear anything. So it's been in the past week really that's really picked up. So
But if you can get a Peyton Bowen, and you do get Tassili Akana, we do have PJ Adebore, Makari Vickers, which is a safety DB.
they're Venables guys.
They're
right?
very. We have not had top 100 rated defensive players in a long time.
And discount the ratings.
We've
for
had
a
other
bit.
4-star kids before, where
Right.
but 4-stars can go up to the 350, 400 range.
Right.
Of overall players, and they're obviously still incredible athletes
of
and good
variance.
players. But number 350 versus number 37, where you're just on the cusp of a 5-star kid, that's a whole different ballgame.
Big
And
difference.
we're if we have 4 or 5 top 100 overall defensive prospects, it's probably been since 2003 or something.
Well, that's a great point, and something's messed up with that rating system if you've got that many players potentially that are in that group. Now, I say that potentially because maybe that many players, that many colleges, there could be that many that qualify as 4 stars, but you're right, if there's any credence to the ratings that they get, the difference between someone, that's an order of magnitude. If you're 350 versus 37, That's a really big difference.
From what I've
there.
heard, magnitude matters.
That's right. Magnitude
I
does
know
matter.
that.
It
That's right.
absolutely matters.
It matters a lot.
And while we're all feeling great about all these defensive players coming in, I don't hear crap about the offense other than Jackson Arnold. Where's all the big time receivers and running backs?
We've
The
got
running
two.
back's good.
We got them both.
Yeah, we have receivers. I would say that I agree.
We need more receivers.
I'm a little
do.
worried, or I say worried. I'm a little concerned that there's a neglect there, but maybe not.
we
Maybe
had
they
a-
know what they're
A
doing.
legit wide receiver coach. We can maybe get some wide receivers.
That would
in.
probably
Could be
help.
it. I
That
am
would
more
probably
concerned
help
with the
a lot.
staffing around offense for sure.
I
than
would
than
agree.
I-
I'm
than
more
I am the
concerned with
personnel coming
staffing than
in.
I am with recruiting.
Yep.
But it translates into both. But we're going to see it in both cases. I was going to say first, though, it's important, discounting a little bit of where people are ranked. I want to see coaches that I believe in get players they think fit their system. And that's something I don't think we saw over the last, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years in terms of defense, especially, where in somewhat offense, where we just went out and recruited stars. We didn't recruit guys to fit the mold of what we wanted in different positions. Aside from quarterback, and honestly, in quarterback, how many misses were there? There were a lot of misses. Lincoln's top recruits were bad. We've yet to see his top recruits pan out, as we talked about in the last pod.
So here's what we got according to 24/7. Jaquez Petaway is the number 66 overall player in the country, 4-star wide receiver.
That's good.
We got Caden Green, the number 80 player in the country, 4-star tackle.
Good.
I'm just going on offense here. 4-star Dalen Smothers is the number 18 running back in the country.
That's low to me. You're getting the number 18 running
Yeah.
back. At
But
a
you're
school like
behind
OU.
you're behind Sawchuk and Barnes, so I mean this is kind of an offense for that anyways.
Keon Brown, 4-star kid. He's in the 53rd ranked wide receiver in the country.
Yeah, pause for just a second. It would be interesting to know if we could ask the coaches, where are you prioritizing running back? Are you missing or are you taking a break? I would love to think that they're taking a break because they don't think they need to get that guy, or there's not a guy out there to go get
Well,
versus these others.
You don't go get Barnes and then Sawchuk and then not go get someone, and then miss on someone, right? So I think I would lean towards the break to say,
Yeah.
we've got this depth already,
Right.
with potentially Marcus Major.
We're going to
coming
emphasize
back,
other positions,
so.
and then we're going to circle back. We're not
Next year.
passing up
I don't
on
feel like we
trying
had
for
depth
an
at the running
Adrian
back
Peterson.
position this year. I mean, Gray was our only bright spot, honestly.
We had depth, but we didn't use part of the depth though. Like
Which
Sawchuk
is
doesn't
back
get
to
the
a
ball.
concern about coaching.
So the
Exactly.
Dalen Smothers kid, I've heard actually really good things about him, and he's kind of a little bit ranked a little too low probably. But I mean, he
Where's
has
he out of?
one of the Carolinas.
So there may be something to that too, right?
But he's got a Florida State offer, an Alabama offer, Arkansas,
well, we know that he when
Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Penn State, South Carolina, Tennessee.
That's not for nothing.
I mean, it's a
He's
who's
not a kid
who.
from Texas, not a kid from Florida, not a kid from California. We know these hotbeds get a little bit of grade inflation, and in the reverse, some players from other positions, some other parts of the country get a little deflation there. So, I don't know. There's hope to believe that he may be a little underrated.
We got another 4-star offensive lineman out of Colorado.
What you mentioned also was you have to have confidence in your coaches to get the players that they want to fit their system. I don't have confidence in the offensive coach. I'm still not sold on Lebby.
I'm
And
still
so,
not either.
So when you say, I hope Lebby gets the guys he wants, yeah, that sounds great. But what if Lebby's not the guy after next year, and we bring somebody else in, and those guys don't fit their system? Then it's
That could be a big
And
setback.
it's a valid concern, right?
well, that's
And
a big setback either way. If
Right.
he's not the guy
Yeah.
next year, it's a big deal.
Well, I think you hope that the guys that you get are going to further instill a system that works. But to that point, with where the concern arises is the system that we ran this year was relatively non-effective past the first 2 drives of the game for the most part.
Right.
So you hope the system develops to a point that it's efficient and effective.
I would love to know, and I would love to ask them. It shouldn't be a truth serum situation. You should be able to ask this of a coach. And maybe it's not something you ask before the bowl game, but it's an off-season thing. Where were you in terms of what you want to be on 2nd and 3rd, and then potentially 4th down, versus what you actually put out on the field? Because what we saw on the field was pretty frustrating.
And it wasn't close.
It wasn't close. And so where was the gap? And that's the serious conversation if I'm Brent Venables I want to have, and if I'm Joe C, I want to have with Brent Venables to say, have you asked about this? And what are they telling you to give you faith that, okay, here's where we're lacking, and here's where I think in the future we're going to do better? Because what they were putting on the field, frankly, wasn't good enough. And it needs to be better, even if it's not always successful. Give me a reason to believe you know why it wasn't successful, not that it was, well, I don't really know what to do on third down. And that's what kind of comes out in the message if you don't have an otherwise good answer of, well, here's what we lack, here's what we need, here's the type of player I want to have, etc. And that scares me a little bit to think that maybe he doesn't have those answers.
I mean,
I
hell,
don't know.
if we started running a little bit of a huddle system, the last two
No,
quarters we
you're
win two
not-
more games.
No, I saw the rule book, and I think you're not allowed to huddle anymore.
Oh,
I think you're
wow,
supposed to
that
run
must-
hurry up,
that's what the problem
and
is.
you're supposed to hike the ball with like 25 seconds no matter what.
I mean, are we complaining as much if we go 8-4 because we decided to huddle in two of the games that we had?
Absolutely
big
not.
leads?
We're not. Absolutely
I'm
not.
probably still not satisfied with Levy's performance,
No.
even with two more wins.
And that's what's frustrating. That's all it took to probably be 8-4.
Yeah.
Was a few huddles.
Yeah.
Few huddles. Or a few caught
Or
balls.
just a third and
or
fourth
few
quarter
things.
huddles.
But yeah,
But I
just a
mean,
few huddles.
again, you just gotta hope, and the fact that we as relatively just novice coaches, we're novice coaches, we're professional fans.
One of us is an end zone analyst.
Yeah, the end zone
Yes.
analyst, that position is actually not a qualified position. But the fact that we can see this, I mean, Steve, to your point, you got to hope those are conversations that are happening with Venables and Levy that are very maybe uncomfortable to say, we're not good in this area. And if we can't get good in this area, then we're not going to be.
Well, honestly, if
where
he's
we
not
need to
having
be.
that conversation, that would scare me about Brent, and it would surprise me about him.
It would too, yeah, same. And
I would have
Joe
hoped he would have
Castiglione
done it
and the rest. Well, I don't
4
know.
games ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I
know.
could see it's a different conversation in the off season than it is in the season.
Yeah.
I guess what we don't know is, I guess we have to hope that Levy was handcuffed this year a little bit just by personnel,
Right.
but that doesn't bode very well for next year
Well, that's what I was
either.
about to say. The personnel doesn't. I mean, your most important position is more than
But
likely
hopefully
unchanged.
it's more
I think
that
things are
than it
better,
is
though. Things are
knowledge
better.
than it is knowledge of the game.
I don't think the offensive line's better next year.
I
don't
think
know
it's
either.
probably about the same.
I don't know.
It starts short, but it always starts short.
You're losing your 2 starting tackles.
You,
And,
you almost always lose somebody off offensive line.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a great offensive line, so they should be able to make up a difference there.
And we're not going to be plugging true freshmen into those positions.
I
They're going to be
think-
players who have been
we're plugging in sophomores.
I think there's a reason to believe that
some
the
very
offense,
edgy sophomores that we
Redshirt
saw out on the town.
Oh,
So
hey, yeah, that's
the
right.
offense probably has an ability to be at the start of the year as good as you can expect to be. So adjust for the fact that it's the start of a year, as picking up where they left off and getting better, with potentially Jackson Arnold taking over at some point. The defense is where you expect to be a lot better, and if
Yeah.
the defense is a lot better, I mean, if they're just a little bit better, we're probably 8-4 or
So
better.
our 33 points per game this season, if our defense improves by 50%,
Oh,
that's enough to
we're
win 2
probably
more games?
9 and
or
3,
you think,
or better.
or better?
I mean, we may be 10-2 as a lock. We lost 4 games by a single
Less than a touchdown.
touchdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows how good the league's going to be, et cetera. But all things considered, I think that would be enough to close that gap.
We had leads in all 4 of those
The
games,
difference
too,
between, for us, 2-10 and 6-6 is actually really slight. The difference between 12-0 and 6-6 is monstrously big. So we're going to have to see monstrous improvement to get to, say, 11-1 or 12-0 with basically be a playoff contender. That's a discussion for deeper into the offseason, for sure. Well, let's transition a little bit. Let's talk about Mike Leach. We don't want to go too long without paying a little tribute to what was a super dude, amazing character, brilliant football coach, and unfortunately, I believe the rule for getting into the Hall of Fame is to win 60% of your games, and he only won 56 something. If he had been
I
alive
think it
and
was 2
played
more
and won the
games.
ball game, I think the ball game would have put him over the edge. That's what I heard. I would like to think they would consider making an exception for that, because
Change the game.
if you adjust for where he coached, if you put anyone, you put Nick Saban in those positions, his record may have been better, but it wouldn't have been a whole lot better. He was coaching uphill.
I think he was National Coach of the Year twice.
He
What I-
was
yeah,
amazing. You look at
it
his
was.
coaching tree and what he produced and the offenses he produced. You shared a stat, I think, Jay, earlier this week, and it was just incredible. Of the last 18 seasons, he touched 14 of those top offenses by either coaching it, having a coach who coached it, or coaching the quarterback.
On that winning percentage thing, is that strictly as a head coach? Because they should factor in assistant coaching too. Because if he's
Right.
if he's a coordinator,
As a coordinator.
and those wins
I
and
don't think they
losses
do.
should count as well. Because
It should.
how many amazing guys that stay assistant coaches their whole career,
Right.
shouldn't they be eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame?
Right, and surely
you
they're
would-
on there, in there.
I would hope so.
Well,
Like
anyone,
Venables if he never became a coach, right?
anyone who,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
if Brent
anyone
Venables
who
wins
knows,
4 national championships
who knows football in the
as an
last 20
assistant.
years knows that Mike Leach was an incredible part of
Changing the entire
tremendous
game.
innovation.
Yeah.
Changed the game. When Bob Stoops, and rightfully or legitimately so, said, I want to find the most difficult offense that I had to coach against as a defensive coordinator, and he went out and got Mike Leach.
Yeah.
So who was the guy at Kentucky that he coached under?
Hal Mumme.
Hal Mumme. And so a couple of guys, but Mike Leach was just an absolute innovator.
And Leach's own tree is fairly impressive.
Oh, his tree's
Too.
extremely
His
impressive.
tree is tremendous. And that, all of that is before you factor in the fact that the guy was a genius.
Yeah.
And he was hilarious.
Yeah.
That stuff about, I don't know if you saw the Athletic article about all of the former quarterbacks who are in his quarterback room and all their rules about don't ask him a question about whatever because we'll be there for literally 3 hours.
Almost like Brent Venables
talking
in a press
about
conference.
whatever. Yeah. The guy, he was incredible. So,
Definitely a sad loss. Not
It's
just
a
for
very
college
sad
football, but
loss.
just for the world.
Just for the world. A guy struck down. You talk about, Neil Diamond's song, Done Too Soon. You're definitely a guy done too soon.
Well, I think it's just absolutely awesome too that he didn't grow up playing football. He didn't play college football. He didn't play in the pros.
Yeah.
Anything like that. He just he
And
got his
an
degree
inspiration
from
to
college.
everybody sitting here
Exactly.
today.
Just learn
And he
the
was
game.
like, you know what? I want to be a coach.
He might have
Like,
been an end zone analyst at one point. Who knows?
Oh, no.
He
They
graduated
don't-
from that really
They don't
fast.
coach from the end zones, so.
He was tremendous. He was in just such a great character and great, interesting person. So sad. Very, very, very sad to see him go like that.
Well, as much as we don't like to talk about him too, just how quickly he could identify people like Lincoln.
right.
Like he picked up on that really quickly. He was like, "This kid's not good enough to play actual football,
But
but he's teaching all of our upperclassmen what to do and on the plays and all this stuff."
Yeah, very good, great point. Another guy who played football, but in all respects, really was another Leach who didn't play football. He wasn't good enough to play football. He just had a little bit of the body type potentially to play football, but he had the mind for it. And Leach identified that. And what's funny was, he wasn't just a character who would say outlandish things. Every time they caught him on camera saying something or interviewed him, or it'd be off the field, he'd be walking off the field and he'd have not just a witty comment, but it's spot on. It was really intelligent. He had stuff to share about stuff. He obviously knew what was going on in the world. Very, very intelligent person. A lawyer, right? Law degree. Highly intelligent. Very funny. So we had the poll this week. I didn't check in on the results. Did you guys see what the results were of the poll? Let's check real quick.
I voted all the above.
I'm guessing it was all the above.
Well, I feel sorry for whoever clicked too quickly and said, so I said, Mike Leach should be remembered for adding this to college football. Innovation, honesty, humor, all the above. 95% said all the above, 5% said humor. And, you'd be absolutely forgiven for just saying any of those because he added all of those. But definitely, it was an all of the above situation, I think. I think
He
was just
directly
great.
affected us getting into the 2008 national championship
He directed us.
because he beat Texas.
That's right. That's true. After a tremendous
With the Michael
beatdown that
Crabtree.
we
Yep.
did on him, he had his shortcomings for sure. I don't think he was great at figuring out how to get a great defense around him. But then again, he coached in some really difficult situations.
Well, and he turned around teams.
How winning can
Yeah,
he
who
be
wants
at
to go to
Texas
Lubbock?
Tech or
Who wants to go to
Washington
Pullman
State
or
Mississippi
Starksville?
State?
Or what
Yeah.
Starksville was before he got there.
Yeah.
I mean, to do what he's done in the SEC at Mississippi State is nothing short of amazing. I mean, it's And again, it's those high power offenses with the quarterback who can sling it around and sling it downfield. But he's one of the guys who knew his system, stuck to his system, just made it work. And yeah, it may not have been at a national championship level, but at the same time, I don't think he coached any national championship worthy teams to be in, to
There
get
was
there.
only one that
So-
he was adjacent to, and that was the Oklahoma Sooners. And
Exactly.
that's something I
So-
remember. I remember the day that he took that job at Texas Tech and left us right before the bowl game against Mississippi in 1999, and I was pretty upset. I was, and Mangino came in and did a great job.
Yep.
And I think very highly of Mangino, again, another protege. But it would have been great to see Leach stick around for that championship season and be able to have that ring because he deserved it. He 100% developed Josh Heupel into who he was and developed that offense into something that was a real power in 99 and then translated into a national champion in 2000. So that's pretty special right there too. So definitely pour some out for our man Mike Leach. That's pretty sad. Well, let's talk about the Heisman. Let's transition into something that's a little bit different conversation.
Painful, but in a different way.
Yeah, it is. I love now rooting against Caleb. I definitely wish Caleb would have stuck around. Caleb's amazing. He rightfully deserved the Heisman. His escapability is incredible. I would say this as a little bit of a knock against him, honestly. A lot of what got him the Heisman, and a lot of what got him success this year was something that doesn't translate very well into the NFL, and that's escapability. Because while that's important, you got to be able to deliver the ball. And any NFL team is going to look at it and say, well, look, we have professionals on the offensive line who are designed to prevent you from getting sacked. So you need to bring more than you can run away from college guys. NFL pursuit is different. And I'm sure he'll do great. I'm sure he'll be very good in the NFL.
I mean, he has the arm talent too.
He has the arm talent, but we're not seeing that 100%. A lot of what he got in terms of success was something that won't actually translate yet to the next level.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I do think he was the rightful winner of the Heisman, if you
stats-wise,
will.
it was huge
Stats-wise,
difference between him and the next.
things you saw.
Yeah.
I mean, again, another Lincoln Riley player that bailed out a horrible defense.
Carried the team.
Carried the team.
Lincoln won't. He'll get all the credit in the world, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it to have 3 Heismans in 6 years, but all 3 guys made so many plays on their own.
Yeah.
That
Not
he
a
gets
design
credit
of the,
for.
not a design of the
Right.
of the offense, other than maybe coaching your receivers up to when everything breaks down. Here's where you run.
Backyard
So
football.
you've got backyard football.
Well, they said that in the Pac-12 championship game is a lot of what that was, or a lot of what you see where he's flushed is. I mean, the announcers explicitly said it that backyard football that they teach at USC. It's like, well, they taught it at Oklahoma too, and it works. I
Yeah.
mean, you get your quarterback out of the pocket. There's a reason that Baker Mayfield in the NFL, most of his successful plays are getting him out of the pocket and clear eyes down the field, waiting for someone to get open. So I'm not saying Baker's wasn't an amazing quarterback, because he was, or isn't a good quarterback, which I still have questions on in the NFL, to be honest. But there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I think that.
Well, he was undoubtedly one of the greatest offensive college quarterbacks ever.
undoubtedly top.
But a
3,
lot of that
top
was
4.
about what he did. It was a lot about what he did off the field, as well as getting his players motivated, but also what he did in plays when they broke down and be able to create something out of nothing.
And like you said, you don't have those opportunities. Baker is a great case study to say you don't have the same opportunities to have that type of success in the NFL.
And we'll see if he does. Hey, again, hats off to him for winning. Goes in 48 hours later with the Rams, and he guides them to a very improbable victory. What was it, 98-yard drive at the end of the
98-yard drive to win the game.
Into the game.
With a minute 45 on the clock.
Yeah, minute 45 on the clock, throws a touchdown pass with 10 seconds to go. Just phenomenal. Awesome.
I mean, you can argue too that Kyler's just a middle of the road
100%
quarterback
Absolutely.
Other than
in the NFL.
in the NFL so far. So far.
Well-
Again, we always have to adjust this for offensive lines,
The teams they're
offensive
playing
talent,
for.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he's got a head coach that's not very good.
got a
Even
head
though
coach that is not
he was a
good at all.
Mike Leach disciple.
Yeah, you've got somebody who's not. I mean, let's run the experiment where every one of them plays under Bill Belichick, and let's see who, after 10 years, rises to the top. Do any of them get to Tom Brady's level? Well, probably very few, if any. But we definitely can say there's a lot of guys like Sam Bradford, and we're just thinking of OU players, but there's plenty from other places who didn't get their fair shot, who could have been so much better than what. I mean, shoot, even Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Warren Moon never won a Super Bowl. You've got tremendous players who had tremendous careers, and sometimes players who had short careers just because they were playing in very below average NFL teams, and that's just difficult to do.
Oh, I think David Carr would have been amazing if he'd had an offensive line.
Yeah.
When he went to the Houston Texans and had the most sacks in NFL history over a 4-year period or whatever, and it ruined his whole career.
Right.
But that guy would have been really good
Yep.
if he'd had a decent offensive line.
Just back to what you said a second ago, a funny question and something I haven't necessarily given a lot of thought to with Kyler and Kingsbury not necessarily being the coach that probably deserves that job, but Kingsbury stays at USC. We probably still have Lincoln's at probably LSU.
LSU.
Yeah. So,
No, because he's scared of the SEC. He wouldn't have taken that job.
so that's just a weird.
He would have been here 3 more seasons or 2 more seasons, and then went to the NFL before the jump to the SEC.
Okay. All right.
An interesting experiment to run to see where he'd be.
So,
We all have our doubts about where he'll end up and what will happen. I think I know at work we talk about, will he even coach it down in the Big Ten, or will he have moved on, or who knows what. That'll be real interesting to see. So let's talk about something that we have to be really shameful of, and that's locks of the week. So we'll get to our locks of the week for this upcoming bowl season in just a second, but just a recap of where we've been. So help me understand what locks of the week are supposed to be, because here we are at the end of the regular season's over, and I always thought that locks of the week were where we thought for sure these were like your best bets, right? That these were going to win.
Well, that's what it is?
If we put money on it, we'd win money. To recap, as a group,
I thought this was loss of the week.
oh,
The
well then we
real
did
deal
really
loss of the
well.
week.
We did really well.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think we could have. Maybe next season we'll try to do loss of the week and see
And
if
we'll
we
win
can do
games.
it better.
Yeah, we'll definitely win.
Well, we were 72 wins and 96 losses for the regular season.
Brutal.
That's 43% as a group.
Good for the faders out there.
All of us sucked. All of us sucked.
What did I start?
Well, you started really good. Last
really,
week,
really good.
I was 2-1, and you were 2-1.
I
Jay.
was?
Yeah.
Huh.
You, Connor, and Lucas were 1-2, but well, let me look up where we were. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see exactly how good you started. I do know that you started pretty well for a while.
I mean, at one point in time, I was near like 60%.
Oh, you were.
I think you were
on
like I think
fire.
you were like 8-4.
You were.
I know,
think
but
you
I
were-
was
I
thinking
think
it was
you
even
were
more than
50
that.
You were picking out
You were
a
at 56% because we said you were right over the edge. Of
I think he
Oh,
actually
that's
was a bit above it. He was picking out a place in Vegas. He was,
Yeah, I
and,
was getting
and
ready
I'm
to
glad you
move.
didn't make that down payment because it didn't turn out well. So right now,
we did move. It's not to Vegas.
yeah, just not to Vegas. Las Vegas, New Mexico, maybe. So from bottom to top, Lucas, you're 17 and 25, 40%. Connor and Jay are tied at 18 and 24, 43%. I am dominating the group at 19 and 23, 45%. So I'm only losing people following me, quite a bit of money. You guys are really burning money up.
So there's only 2-game difference between worst and first.
Here's the good news. So we're about to pick 12 games. If we go 12-0, we still will be below 500 for the entire season, including the bowl. So that's just sad, guys. That's
It's
just
the, it's
sad.
the
So we need to
inaugural
pick
season of
24
locks of the
games.
week. It takes a season to get into it.
Jay, you started 2-1, 1-2, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. So you're doing great. Like that's what you want to do. 1-2, 1-2, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3, 0-3, 0-3, 2-1. What are you doing, man?
Don't know.
What are any of us doing? It just goes to show you it's kind of
I
tough.
had 3 straight 0-3s.
Now, one thing I'd like to know is how much, and this is like impossible to know, how much of our own biases are entering these picks?
I'm gonna miss this.
You know there's some degree of it. Now, I just use, well, that's beer down there, Connor.
I knew something happened.
I tried. I'm sorry.
I just use a model for mine. Aside from mine early on, which I guess I should take a couple of those out that were somewhat just my picks. You've got, I'm just using a mathematical model to do mine, and it's not been great. You guys are going with your heart, your gut, or whatever it is, also not great.
We're going with the.
We've obviously
the
got some kind of
hours before
bias
the
in here.
podcast.
We need to figure out, or this has been a weird season. Let's write it
It
off.
was a really weird college
It's
football
been a
season.
weird college football season, so
TCU
maybe.
was picked like 8th in the conference or something, and
they're in the playoff.
And they're in the playoff.
Now
Yeah,
So,
we're not-
Alabama,
there's no way,
who
there's
was
no way
favored
we're
every
this.
game.
We're not this bad. Okay.
Well, I don't
refuse
know
to
how
believe
many
it.
people did great this year, or any year really.
Well, I'd say half of them did good. That's
But-
usually the way it works.
The I think what's most disappointing personally to me
This
is
could be a
all
long
of my
It's
picks.
three consecutive 0-3s.
Yeah, it's true. But my picks, I don't really go that far out of the box necessarily on teams. So most of them I have watched, or I know a lot of the players on the team, or I've seen their games.
There's your bias.
Right, but I feel like I should be able to pick that
That's
better
the problem. Don't do that.
than just 2 random teams I don't know.
I know.
Like Coastal Carolina all season.
Hey,
Yeah.
that only missed one time.
Well, honestly, we should, I need to update
And
the
Western
stats
Kentucky.
to see how
But you're
often
not-
those
but
things
you're
you
not-
actually missed.
But see, I don't really know how to pick those games because I honestly I have nothing to go off of.
But how much do we? It's a great lesson in how much do you really know about any of this stuff. Now, the team we should know the best is OU, and how good would we do there? We probably wouldn't do that great. Well, it'd be a small sample size.
We're just way too close to that situation.
We are, and we're biased, and we're going to do one or the other. Either in years like this, Lucas is going to do great,
Yeah.
probably
That's
because
it.
he's going to be pessimistic about it, and we're going to be bad because we're going to be optimistic. And in the reverse, when we have great seasons, it's going to be the reverse, and nobody gets credit for that. It shouldn't, because they just like, yeah, great. Your team that you want to pick ended up winning, so what? Who cares? But that's the team we should know the best. But honestly, I don't know if I know enough to say when we should do what we should do. It's just tough.
You could probably kind of get it out to the conference to say that we somewhat know what to do or
Right.
think that we know what to do,
We follow that more.
but and maybe the blue chips to an extent.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's
It's tough, though, still.
it is.
Because I've got my biases, and I'm going to root against Ohio State, and I'm going to root against Alabama. I'm going to hope that they lose. And so it's hard to...
And especially with teams like
adjust
that
for
who end
that.
up having massive spreads more times than not.
Or if you're going to pick against USC every single game of the year because you hate the coach.
I actually did well when I picked against USC. I refrained from doing it in games that the model said don't do it, and I actually did really well. That's one of those that I actually had a winning record against. So, yeah, it is tough. Your bias definitely creeps in ways that you just don't appreciate or can't adjust for. It's just really tough. There's so many ways that we come around and we can shoehorn our way into thinking, oh, this is the reason this team's going to lose, and they don't for that, or don't cover the spread, and they don't for whatever reason, or do cover this. They're going to cover the spread and they don't because we want them to.
Yeah. We'll do better next year.
That being said, let's transition to the locks of the week.
The realest deal. Locks of the week.
So I'm going to go first. And I understand that there's a big injury and probably a million players setting out and all this stuff, but I'm going to say Tennessee giving 7 is going to cover. I think they're going to cover.
Versus Clemson?
Against Clemson. Which is just, I don't know, as I say that, it's kind of hard to say as we remember the last 7 or 8 years. But I'm going to say that's going to happen. Memphis, I think, is giving 7. And this is rare for me. I'm going to pick 3 favorites. and Marshall giving 10.
Tennessee's getting 7.
Getting 7. Yeah. What am I saying? Yeah, they're getting 7. Okay.
Well, I've got them at
That makes more
6.5 on one of my books.
6.5. I see 7.
Because we're going to have a loss in here because I'm going. Yeah.
All right, I'll say 6.5. I'll do 6.5. I'm willing to do that. If you that's the latest line you're seeing. The lines are moving a lot. You're right. Okay. I thought that seemed weird.
Well, I mean, yeah.
All right. So, but Memphis, I got that one right. Correct. They're giving 7, and Marshall's giving 10. And I should look up who the heck they're playing. I know who they're. I mean, I picked it after I saw who they're playing, but I don't recall them now because who keeps up with those bowl games?
Memphis is playing Utah State.
Yeah, Utah State. They suck. And Marshall, are they playing?
North Texas?
No, who fired Seth Luttrell?
Yeah. Nope. They're playing UConn.
Oh, UConn. Yeah. I talked
And
about
that is 10.
Yep, 10. I got that 10. So I like that. So Tennessee 6.5, getting 6.5. Memphis giving 7. Marshall giving 10. All right, Connor, what do you got?
Man, this was just kind of a crapshoot. But I've got Baylor giving 5.5 against Air Force. Wake Forest giving 1 against Missouri. And I've got Georgia giving 6.5 against Ohio State.
I like those picks. I think Georgia. One thing that I noticed, I did some analysis on this season, and I think I've looked at this before. I looked at every game. There's like 800 some games in FBS football. And Vegas does something funny. They are not good at giving enough points for favorites when they deserve them. The dispersion's really weird. It's really an interesting offset. And so there's a lot of games where the favorite covers by a bunch. There's another group of games that are interesting where the underdog just outright wins. And then the ones that I think are tough, if you can pick enough of the ones that the favorite is going to win big, or that the underdog is going to outright win, you can win some money. You can, because you take the money line in the underdog and you take the favorite giving the points. If you can pick enough and or eliminate enough of those where the favorite actually covers, but just, or actually fails to cover but just barely, but still wins. So in this case, Georgia wins by 4. That would be one where you'd want to avoid that game.
Yeah.
But if you can pick all those other games where Georgia wins by 50, or pick Ohio State with the money line when Ohio State actually just outright wins the game, you can do really well against Vegas. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it's real interesting to see how often Vegas has the lines a lot closer than what the actual dispersion is in the scores. The scores get really out of hand. And it's as if, especially early in the season, the Vegas just doesn't want to give favorites enough points. Favorites that are favored by 30 or 40, and you're saying, there's no way. Well, no, it should be 50. It should be 60.
Yep.
So that's an interesting phenomenon that I
is
discovered looking
interesting.
at the entire span of those games. So, Lucas, what do you got?
I have Wisconsin -3 against Oklahoma State.
Which, Oklahoma State, are they going to be able to fill the team?
Not at quarterback, probably.
Slow Gundy out there.
I've got Florida State -7.5.
Wait, who are they playing?
Oklahoma.
What? Wait, I'm sorry. What?
That is
Wrong.
the ultimate realist take.
Wrong.
They are so much
Wrong.
more talented than we are,
Wrong.
and they actually have a quarterback that's dynamic.
So much more talented is a massive
I'm going to go back
exaggeration.
to the last few times we played them in a bowl game, and we won.
We are
One of them was
6-1
for a
all
national
time against Florida
championship.
State.
Yeah, and almost every
6-1.
time in a bowl game.
Fixing to be 6-2. And then I was going to take Clemson, but if we're going to try to get this total back to good, we don't need to go against each other because that's counterproductive.
Don't do that.
So
Go with your heart.
I'm going to take Notre Dame -2.5 against South Carolina.
Okay. I kind of like that too.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Jay, what do you got?
I got Wisconsin -3 as well.
That's an agreement.
This line was, for this next game, was actually very, very surprising to me, and that's really the only reason I picked it. Bama -3 against Kansas State. I just the talent disparity there just seems shocking.
So
that's the
Connor and
line.
I were talking about that earlier, and I give you a chance to maybe reconsider. Does this not set up for a lot like the Sugar Bowl in 2015 with OU?
14.
14.
Yeah, ish. I don't know. I think
I mean, Kansas State is going to come well coached and ready to play. Bama is disappointed. And they're disappointed late because their coach gave them a reason to believe they were going to make the playoff.
I don't know if Bama's disappointed per se.
Oh, I guarantee you they're disappointed in the overall season.
Yeah, but I don't. It's not like.
in the overall season. But when Nick Saban was stumping that they should be in the playoffs,
Yeah, I
he
think
didn't truly
the team
believe that
knew.
they should be in the
Yeah, I
playoffs.
think the team knew where
Texas
they were.
A&M was
And
one
they-
good play away
was a pathetic
from
interview, by the
beating
way.
Alabama.
And both of their losses were single-digit losses for Bama. I don't. The talent. I think Bama's going to show up to play. Is my point.
But
I don't-
what if,
I don't think
what
it's
if
gonna
Bryce
be-
Young sets it out?
I don't. Well, I mean that changes the lines.
You're
You're
locked
locked
in
in.
at
You're locked in
three.
three.
I am now, but
Yeah, no, you are for good.
You're doing an addendum to the pod.
I don't know.
We'll probably have another pod.
We
before
might
that
have a pod
game.
between now and then.
Yeah,
It's-
we need it. We'll have a preview pod before the OU game.
I think there's been
so,
enough times that Bama hasn't showed up
Yeah,
for them to show up.
it may be the night before too.
Did they lose
It's hard to bet
Utah
against Bama.
Yeah.
with the Urban Meyer Utah?
Yes,
No,
they
it wasn't
did.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Urban Meyer with Alex
And he
Smith.
came out and
Before he
and-
went to Florida.
and-
destroyed Alabama.
well, he came out real strong and jumped out to like a 14-0 lead, and then
You sure it
Bama
wasn't Urban
kinda-
Meyer?
I'm almost
Yes.
certain it was.
That's where he made
Urban
his
Meyer.
hay at.
I don't
yeah,
think so.
right before he went to Florida.
No, they won like the Fiesta Bowl or something with Urban Meyer.
Check it because
I'm checking.
I'm
I think Utah
absolutely could be wrong
Utah
on this.
beat Bama, right?
But I
Yeah, but
totally
they beat
remember
him in, like-
Utah
That was
beating
Urban
Bama
Meyer.
when
No, but
Urban
they beat him
Meyer
in like
was the
09 or
coach.
something.
No, I think it was like 05 or 6.
So I want company. You, Connor, and Lucas both think that it was Urban Meyer
Yes.
beating Alabama.
Yeah.
I do. Okay.
But then you had the game like Hawaii
It
against
won't-
Georgia,
Yeah.
the Timmy Chang year, and everybody's like, "Oh, this might end up like that Bama Utah,"
And it was a
Georgia
slaughtering.
destroyed.
It was 2000 January 2nd, 2009.
Yep.
Okay.
So that would not have
That
been.
would-
Urban Meyer was
Yeah.
Beating
Florida,
us.
At Florida.
they were literally beating us that year. National championship.
No, that was the next. The 09 was the next year. They beat us in 08.
Well, but it would have been January of
January
09.
January of 09. Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you remembered it right, and we three remembered it wrong.
Who was it? Was it Whittingham then?
Yeah, it would have been. Whittingham's been there for like 15 years.
How about that?
Well,
Isn't
that information would have been nice to know if you said. If you said
I thought it was like 05.
Yeah, I was thinking-
I thought it was
05.
longer
I
ago
thought it was
too.
05, 06.
Isn't that fu- so that
You
yet
may-
again, your own personal memory is untrustable. Don't ever trust yourself unless you're Jay. So that wasn't Urban Meyer who beat. Really?
maybe they did it twice.
Did they do it twice?
I don't think they
Come on,
did.
please.
I don't think that happened.
Yeah, because they jumped out to
Wow.
21-0 lead
Yeah, it was. It
and
was
then
a
hung
huge-
on.
Yeah, and they had to really hang on. Yeah.
We're getting old.
Yeah.
God.
Getting old.
We're in our
Man.
extremely late 20s.
Yeah. It's man. Okay. So what's your third game, Mr. Knows the History?
Oh, I went ahead and took TCU plus, what, 7.5?
7.5.
I like that.
I like that.
I really
pick.
think TCU has a chance in that game.
I think they got a chance in that game too, just because it's hard for me to believe in Michigan, although I'm rooting for Michigan, as we talked about on the last podcast. Lucas, did you listen to that? Have any? I know you listened to it. Do you have any take on who should be, if we had our magic button to push, who we want to win the national title?
I wouldn't have a problem with TCU winning it. I don't want Georgia because we recruit more against them, but Michigan winning it, I don't think would hurt us in the slightest. 'Cause
Well, that was my pick.
How many guys
my
have we
pick.
lost head-to-head with Michigan other
Exactly.
than
That's my pick. I don't
was
see
the kid's
Michigan
name
as a
from
threat in
Tulsa?
any regard.
Dax, what was his name?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Dax
not
Hill.
even. It's not
Dax
even
Hill.
meaningful.
Do what?
Dax Hill.
Dax Hill, yeah.
I agree.
That's the only guy I can remember in the last
Yeah.
decade or
Maybe
two.
Now,
an
don't you think
offensive
we go?
lineman or
Don't you
two.
think it'd be bad for a team like Jay's point? Is it would be bad for a team out of Texas to win the national title?
See, I think it'd be terrible for TCU.
It would hurt.
Terrible.
It would hurt recruiting for sure.
Yeah.
But we're going to be out of the conference with them after next year.
That was a point I raised.
But Yeah,
We're still,
Texas
I mean,
recruits.
We're still, yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we're still recruiting against Texas A&M.
To
We
me,
haven't been in the same
Michigan's the
conference in a
obvious
while.
answer of
Yeah.
who we want to win it all, and yet I have my doubts that they can do the whole thing, much
Yeah.
less maybe even beat TCU.
It's
I
weird
said
we've
Georgia.
lost-
I said Georgia didn't matter because what's 2 national titles that have won national?
It's weird we've lost
Georgia's
more
Georgia.
recruits to Ohio State than Michigan when they're in the same conference and they're geographically in the same area.
Watch Brian
but
Hartline.
Ohio
But we've had a
State's
lot
just
of
a better
Ohio State
recruiter.
losses.
But they're
like-
just a better recruiter.
Yeah, Ohio
Recruiting.
State has come into Texas. It's like the only non-SEC regional school to come into Texas. Oregon's kind of come into.
And like we said, it was maybe an off-season pod where I ran my stats and said there's 3 ultimate elite blue bloods, and it's Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ohio State. So Ohio State definitely in the last 15 years has just been a step above Michigan among many, many
Oh,
others. And so it's not too surprising that they're able to do that. They would like to cite, and I don't know if it's true or not, the back-to-back series that they played against Texas that helped them get into Texas and talk. I don't know if that mattered or not and get in front of those kids. But they've done a great job. Michigan, for what it's worth, I don't see them as big of a threat. I
And
don't
we
know.
got Michigan on the docket
We do.
for this decade.
Uh-huh.
Going home and away. If it
Last
still
time,
holds.
Last time, I bet it will. Last time we played Michigan, if I'm remembering right, we won a national title in 1975. We beat them in the Orange Bowl.
Do we need to fact check that?
Yeah, please do.
Urban Meyer was not the coach. of that
I
team.
don't think Urban Meyer was anywhere close to being the coach.
Because Urban Meyer went in 06.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I
To
thought the Utah game
Florida.
was 05.
Yeah, I thought it was 05. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, when we played Boise. Well, I don't know. Shit. Well, that was 06. So I don't know.
So 6, huh?
Yeah, I don't know anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, those are the locks of the week for what they're worth. We'll see.
Locks of the bowl. season.
Gold.
Locks of the bowls. They're gold, baby. Lock 'em
Well,
up.
Hopefully it's not loss of the week.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if it is, we'll change it. I'll go back and rebrand every one of those to loss of the week.
How many
I
under
mean,
5? How many under 500 will we be if we all hit
so
the
72 plus 12. What did I say? 72 and 96.
72 and 96?
So 84 and
Oh.
86.
I was about to say if we
Pretty
if we
brutal.
get within a 4-game span, we should all lock the
So what
one
you're saying
team in
is,
the red
is
white
we
game
should
to put us
just
over
pick
the top
every
for
bowl
next
game.
season.
We have to pick every bowl game to try and
Try
get on
and get
top.
there.
We'll start. No, we'll pick. We'll just pick spring games next year.
Well, I don't know how many games we have before the next pod. We'll probably do the next pod after Christmas. But if we're in contention, we may give some additional locks. Now, some of you have some games that obviously are on the New Year's or the New Year's Eve docket. So
We
that
made it to
won't
do.
happen.
Yeah, we made it to do like a December 26th pod.
So I think we need to do one right before the OU game,
Boxing Day pod.
and
Yeah.
We're going to talk EPL.
and then we need
Absolutely.
to talk about. Obviously, we'll do the post game, and then we'll get into what'll be the true off season, which is just kind of amazing to think about at this point. It's been very short and a very long season as we stand here today. So let me transition to something completely different that 2 of you will have maybe views on. Who do you guys want to win the World Cup? I hear this soccer thing. Every 4 years we play soccer, and it's important. So who do you guys want to win? Do you want France or Argentina? Morocco's amazing run ended today. See, I keep up with it.
Yeah, I'm going to say Argentina because France won it last time. And
Do we recruit against
Messi,
France?
Messi has been the GOAT, but he doesn't have that.
He doesn't have that title.
Doesn't have the World Cup. So, I'm going to root for Argentina.
A lot of people are rooting for Messi because of that, and
I would
it's easy to
enjoy
root
seeing.
against the
I would
French.
enjoy seeing Messi lose because of that.
Oh, interesting.
I'd like.
I'm
to
not
see,
going to cry for Argentina.
I'd like to see France.
Well,
repeat.
don't cry for me, Argentina. You're for France. So we got
Yeah.
Connor's for France, Lucas is for Argentina. What are you for, Jay? Do you care?
Nope. Don't care.
I mean, the goalie for France is the captain of my English Premier League team, Tottenham
Okay.
Hotspur. So, if France wins a back-to-back World Cup, that's
you get
cool
to claim
for him.
it too. Yeah.
But we also have our starting right back plays for Argentina, so it'd be cool for
Hey,
him.
but do you
It'd be
care?
cool for him to get one.
You're a big soccer player. You're a varsity soccer player. You have no care. You don't care at all. All right.
It's a different
So,
game.
Who do you want to win, Steve?
You know what? I didn't. I wanted either Croatia
was hoping England would
or
win.
for Morocco. I would have rooted for England.
I mean, not that France doesn't care, but I think it's a pretty big deal in Argentina.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with their people celebrating.
yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool for, I don't know. That's all I got to go for is like, who
Root for the
among people
Americas.
do I root for? And so, who's closer to America? Yeah, Americans, right?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
South
America.
Americans.
Yeah.
So let's keep it in this hemisphere, right? Let's root for Argentina. All right, I'm gonna pull for Argentina. Well, anything else we need to talk about as we start in 2 days the bowl season, and we've got signing day coming? Anything else on you guys' mind that we need to be talking about or thinking about? I think it's pretty exciting. It's a long way from here in signing day, as we know, but I don't think we're going to get a bunch of surprises. I don't think it's going to be a bunch of. We're not going to get the losses and the flips that Lincoln was
Question
subject to.
just put something on Twitter
What did he
that's
say?
cryptic.
What did he say?
No, he posts that every year.
Does he?
I think so.
Okay, so hopefully it's not specific.
What'd he say?
He just posted, but don't forget, when your school lands a player, it happened because he loved the coach's school and university. When you lose a guy, the other school cheated or did something.
Well, that's
non-existent.
just true.
Yeah, but that was in response to another tweet he sent
Okay.
about stories get crazy this time of year.
It could be the Bowen $2 million deal.
Right.
Yeah,
to
I think
Oregon.
that's what everyone's referencing
But
or
who knows?
thinking it is. But
That's
we'll
a
see.
really good point.
I think he posts that meme every year, though.
That's a really good point, though, and we need to look at
Yeah,
that. That
all
should
the
be your
cheaters out
point.
there.
No, I think that should be your point as a realist. That as homers, we need to realize that sometimes kids make different decisions, and
Yeah.
they just don't want your school for different reasons, and maybe they've got good reasons. And a lot of times they're 18-year-old kids, and they don't know. What
We
the
don't
hell
have a
they're
cool
doing.
enough alternate uniform for them, so they're not going to come here.
So
No, we have a.
You don't
yeah.
think it's cool enough?
We threw out a garbage
love our
one, and that's
alternate,
why
but it's
they
gone
turned
now.
away.
Oh,
That
you
single-handedly
I think we've
flips
retired the-
Colton Vasek probably.
To bring the
It
wood.
seems like there was always one or two kids that haven't sent in their fax, which I can't believe we still send in faxes on signing day.
They can do it electronically now.
Can they?
They changed it like 2 years
But
ago.
you're kind of waiting, like, this kid's been committed for 14 months. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, what's going
Come on, kid,
What's
let's
this
go.
kid doing?
Let's
Quit
go.
freaking me out.
It's weird. It's very strange.
What was the one for, was it Cass Everett that committed to, like, was signing for Tech, and then we called him, and literally, like, he took a picture with the guns up and the Texas Tech hat on
That's right, and we
in
flipped
the
him.
morning, and then at like 2 in the afternoon, they're like, oh, wait, he's actually signing with OU
don't know.
because they changed his mind.
Which I want. So let's
seems like
take
that's who it
their
was.
fans' point of view. Do you think we gave some under the table money on that
I don't
deal?
think so.
Oh,
Cass,
come on.
for Cass Everett?
Come on.
We don't
not.
do that.
I bet we do that so much.
It's Oklahoma.
I know history. I know.
Morals.
I know lots of stories
Chill
to
out,
tell you about
you
things
homers.
we've done. Homer to say that we've cheated. Yeah, and I don't consider it other than the letter of the law cheating. I think it's righteous cheating.
So I'll say we lose a guy
Oh, nice prediction.
and we'll gain a guy that we.
Ooh, a flip and a
I think
flip.
we'll not Bowen either. Just like somebody else.
Somebody's going.
Like
somebody
somebody-
that's right now the 23 committed. One of those 23 is going.
As long as it's not Jackson
flipping.
Arnold.
Yes, as long as it's not Jackson Arnold or Adibore.
Well,
Yeah, I was
but
about to say,
you
I don't
would
wanna
Definitely
lose- I don't
Jackson
wanna
Arnold.
lose
In the
Arnold's the
prediction,
key
you would
to
get
the
Jackson
entire
Arnold is
class.
absolute key.
Yeah.
Honest to God,
Well, key
maybe
versus
Jackson
your
Arnold
prediction.
won't be this guy, but if we lose Jackson Arnold, I'm gonna be
God.
right next to Lucas here and just
Oh God. Well,
I'm gonna go find me
in a grave. He's gonna get in a car
Yeah.
and turn the.
Well, I'm
shut the
driving
garage
tonight,
door.
so I'll just drive us both off the bridge at the same time.
You'd only
Well,
be doing
that's
He
us-
is
you'd only
he's
be doing us
literally the
half of a
future
favor.
of our program to lead us into the SEC.
Me and Jay used to have a tradition where we'd take off on signing day,
yeah.
and we would go to Ozzy's for breakfast. and
Oh,
then
good old us.
We would check it on our phone as the signees started rolling in, and then we go to my house and watch on ESPNU
So in February.
all the coverage. Yep, in February, the first Wednesday in February.
Well, it's
And then it came
nice.
out.
Must be nice not to work.
Then it came to the point where Twitter just took over everything, and you saw everything happen like before.
But yeah, before ESPN.
So you just
yeah.
popped an Eggo into the toaster, and like that was it.
Then we just stopped taking off and just texting each other.
You guys could screen mirror your phones on the TV and do Twitter Live.
There you go.
yeah.
So
we could do a Twitter Spaces.
all right, let's end on if anybody's got a different opinion or a different prediction than Jay. Jay says we're going to lose one of the 23 and we're going to gain someone else. Between now and signing day,
A mystery recruit.
a mystery. Sure,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, like we'll gain a mystery recruit, like not
Would Hicks
not like a
count?
Bowen or a Hicks or a.
Oh, Oh.
to Celia Khan. I'm
Okay.
talking about there'll be somebody else that's not even
And not Portal,
on the radar. Right.
high school.
Yeah, I think it'll be some high school kid just kind of out of nowhere.
Oh, well, I think we'll add somebody. That's an easy prediction, right?
Yeah.
We'll add somebody.
No, but I mean someone that's not.
Of notability.
on the radar.
A flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I don't know. I don't think you're going to see much. of
I say
anything.
we won't. I'll say neither.
I
I
think
say
we
we
lose
don't
one game
lose
on.
any of the 23. And I say we don't gain anyone that you would say was, wow.
That we don't know
I can't
about right
believe we
now.
got that guy.
Okay.
If we're taking Hicks and those type of guys off the table.
Off the table. Yeah.
I'm with Steve.
Well, that'd be interesting. We'll see how that goes. We'll be back. We'll talk about our predictions for the OU game against Florida State. We know one of our predictions already, but he may change as Florida State decides they're not going to play that game.
Going to chop him up.
And until next time, Boomer.
Sooner.